another one. Tropico 6 comes to a series that's been around since 2002, with Tropico 6 originally coming out in 2019 but still getting DLC updates today. If you're not familiar with Tropico, it's essentially a city builder where basically you run your own Cuba in the Caribbean area. Starting out, Tropico 6 looks pretty good, as long as you don't zoom in all the way like a sadist would. It's a city builder, these almost never look perfect up close, but at a normal view distance, Tropico looks just fine. You can also customize your Presidente and the palace he resides in. There's lots of different cosmetic options for your leader as well, but there's also a few traits to pick from that may affect the game in a significant way or like nothing. Next is the soundtrack. I'm not entirely sure if the music is original scores of music for the game, or if what my theory is that they used real-life Caribbean-style music instead. Either way, Tropico sounds great, and 6 is no disappointment. However, when I was playing, I did notice that every time a shipping freighter leaves the port, it plays a sound effect. Well, this isn't such a big deal, but in the late game, if you're like me, you have like 20 docks, right? So every single one of those docks plays this sound effect every time a boat comes and goes. It's pretty much constant, and I did not see an option to turn it off either. Now, Tropico may be a city builder, but the majority of what you're doing is economy management. You're making base materials, refining them into finished goods, and sending them out to a dock to bring in that sweet, sweet cash. Everything costs money to maintain, and so do people for their wages. So you have to balance all these things together to keep your economy afloat. Citizens also have needs that cost money too. Food, housing, recreation, religion, as well as their jobs, just to name a few. The most of these cost more money than they make as well. Housing is one of the most difficult and important parts of managing citizens in Tropico 6. If you do not provide them with a house wherever they deem necessary, they will instead build their own, a shack. Shacks make the citizen that lives there very unhappy about their housing, and it lowers the beauty of the area around it. Some houses actually get a bonus based off of higher beauty, and tourist spots get a huge bonus based off of beauty, so this could be pretty bad if you don't fix it. It is imperative that you remove as many shacks as possible and give citizens real homes. However, as far as I can tell, there's no method to like highlight them in like bright green or something, and they're extremely small and hard to see, so it can be difficult to keep the amount low. There'll always be a couple that are hidden behind a building or in between two buildings or something. One other thing that makes the shack management hard is that citizens will not really commute all that much. Even with the options, many people don't really drive. The only people who drive are the guys who are hauling cargo around. You could build these garages later that give the citizens access to cars, but even with that and the edict that makes it free, a ton of people still don't really drive around. So if the houses aren't close to the workplace, they're not walking distance, they build a shack. This also means that if you decide to build houses far away, to prevent them from building shacks, now you have to build all their amenities all over again, like the churches and the medical facilities. Industry. This is a huge part of Tropico and Tropico 6 by that extension. This will essentially be your main management outside of citizens. You're managing the imports and the exports of the industry. In Tropico 6, they added a lot of options to the game, as well as a ton returned from the previous titles as well. However, most of them are locked to the pretty late game. But this kind of sucks, but this also kind of makes sense because you're not going to have some super high-tech lab in the colonial era. You can also do trade routes. They basically, you promise to buy or sell a specific amount of resource or good for a higher price than normal, around 25%. They also raise the standing for whichever faction is buying or selling, but also reduce the standing with any competing factions as well. Tourism has always been a big part of the Tropico games, and Tropico 6 is no different. Later on you unlock it, and it actually feels a little basic. Mainly you build a hotel for them to stay at, and then you give them somewhere to spend their free time like a place to eat. I suppose, however, this is realistic though, seeing as that's pretty much how all the Caribbean works in real life, so maybe it's kind of boring and basic by design because that's how the real life design is. Between exports and tourism, this is your main income on your economy. One thing that's interesting is Tropico 6 can be very unforgiving with how easy it is to become bankrupt. Unless you're paying extreme close attention, it can be trivial to mistake your income versus expenses and quickly go bankrupt. Almost nobody wins a Tropico 6 save until they've played it a bunch of times. This isn't a bad thing, it's a little misleading for new players. Later on you unlock research. Basically you gain knowledge over time from specific buildings like libraries, and you can spend these points to unlock options for things. Like for example, on the TV station, you unlock different channels to broadcast. You also can unlock options on the Constitution. The Constitution allows you to customize levels of freedoms of citizens. Basically freedom of choice or freedom of religion, for or against things like gay marriage or whatever. Basically the Constitution's all about the people's rights. You also unlock edicts. These are similar to the Constitution but are far less major decisions to make. Like for example, one of the edicts gives people more food to improve their food happiness. Another one makes maintenance for industry cost half as much for a year for some upfront cost. Next is the maps. Each one comes with different fertility and options and overall design. There are tons of handmade maps to choose from, as well as a random map generator that you can change parameters and add a level seed to. There are scenarios that act like challenge maps, but a lot of people, and myself included, end up playing sandbox the most. Challenge maps aren't for me. However, all the challenge maps are available in the sandbox mode, and they're all handmade. As you progress through time, you'll advance through the eras, ranging from colonial to modern. They're pretty much all surrounded around a war. This is similar to Tropico 5, but not the same mechanically. You still unlock new things as you progress through the eras, but the way that you progress is changed. Basically, you have to complete tasks from external factions and create alliances with one of the competing factions to progress to the next era. One really annoying thing about the colonial era is that they have a time limit on it. If you don't complete enough of the tasks for the crown, you lose the game and have to start over. As you progress through the eras, the UI changes and looks, and it's really neat and fits the era's themes really well too.
Well, I suppose you did rather well, for a bunch of savages.
My heart swells with joy as I greet my fearless leader for the first time as El Presidente.
From time to time, you'll be contacted by advisors or citizens with demands or requests of you. These are there to try to tell you what problems your citizens are having day to day. For example, like when they don't have a church or a hospital. Sometimes these options will be advisors competing like children, making you pick between one of the two or neither of them if you want to. When you pick one, it reduces the favor of the one you didn't go with, and if you decline to answer, it reduces favor for both. Most of the time they just want you to build a building or enact an edict or something. Other times they want you to amend the Constitution or do something that is objectively a bad idea.
Times, but he had a point, and a gun, and so do you, Presidente. Let's squeeze some lemons.
Have you heard this fossil? He still thinks the proletariat is a commodity to buy and sell like chicken wings. Tropico's workers have been squeezed enough. Help them, Presidente.
Each one of these people that contact you are fully voiced. The voice actors are great overall, and they also have a little caricature in a political portrait style, and it looks great. Sometimes the foreign factions will also contact you in the same way and give you these requests. If you anger one of the external factions too much, they'll actually invade you. Every few years you have to be re-elected. It is a democracy after all. When this happens, you have the option to give a speech or not. If you decide to, you could choose from a few things to talk about during the speech. You can acknowledge issues and even promise to fix them. If you fulfill your promises and keep them, you'll get a big boost in approval in the next election by the people who presented the issues. This also, however, goes the same way if you break the promises. Nothing a little bit of good old-fashioned iron fisting can't fix, however, though. You can just kill them.
Diseases. Tropico has a proud heritage. We thank the conservatives who will not let our ways be lost or even mislaid. Tradition is the glue that binds the gears of this great nation. Of course, the Chinese think their superior numbers can bend Tropico to their will.
Raiding becomes unlocked pretty quickly, and you get these options to do stuff like steal valuables, rescue people, or steal some like world thing like the Brandenburg Gate or the Statue of Liberty. After doing it like one time, it becomes pretty lame, and the entire raiding system feels super unfinished. Now, you could be attacked on your island if you make people too angry with you. Anytime you build any form of military base, it comes with a squad of defenders. They run to wherever the enemy is or where the attack is, but oftentimes the AI is terrible, and it'll run straight past attackers. And in the end, the battle comes down to whoever has more people. You can't control the squad in any way, and they really aren't very smart. They just line up and shoot each other. Fortunately, these battles are actually pretty rare. It almost never happens after the first little bit with the rebels. Just a quick few things. Controls are objectively good and bad at the same time. The UI is clean and easy to navigate, but the pause button is P. Why is it not spacebar? Also, 1, 2, and 3 on the keyboard do not speed up or slow down time. You have to like click it. I'm sure there's a hotkey, don't know what it is. It's not 1, 2, 3, it's not the right one. Late game I began experiencing a stutter and random freezes that would last several seconds. Oh, and the road builder is absolute garbage. It keeps trying to make these stupid curvy roads that look terrible, so if you have OCD and want aesthetically pleasing roads, good luck. Tropico 6 has multiplayer, but I didn't try it. None of my friends like city builders, so go figure. Tropico 6 already has buckets upon buckets of DLC to choose from, just like the last game, so if you're into that, give it a shot. I'm waiting for a sale before I buy them. In the end, I enjoy the Tropico series. I've been playing it since the third one. And Tropico 6 is definitely not the best one in the series, but it's still a really good game. The horrendous road building tool and the several features that just never got fleshed out really hold it back. A lot of people consider Tropico 4 to be the best game in the series, and I can't say I disagree. However, if you like city builders or the Tropico series, Tropico 6 is still a good buy. If you're on the fence, wait for a sale and pick it up, but definitely play it. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, leave a like on the video, or maybe leave a comment if you have questions, concerns about the video, or suggestions as to what game to play next.